In last week's reading, we saw the card of the warrior in the inverted position. I didn't really have a lot of thoughts about that at the moment, but during the course of the week, it has occurred to me that this card represents the frustration that the U.S. Armed Forces feel in dealing with Afghanistan. You may recall that at some point last year, they realized that they didn't have enough forces to dominate the countryside, so they thought they would adopt a strategy of controlling the cities. This was followed by an operation in Marja, which they thought was a success, but then they found that after the main U.S. forces withdrew, the Taliban began to reassert its influence and control within a matter of weeks. At this point in time, they are camped outside Kandahar with the intention of doing a major sweep through that city. And it's quite possible that they are hesitant and that perhaps they should be hesitant because if you look back in history, you find that in World War II, when the Russians conquered Berlin, they suffered 400,000 casualties, and these were inflicted by a ragtag army of young boys and old men who were armed with rifles and Panzerfaust, which is the predecessor of the modern-day RPG. And this is exactly the kind of force that U.S. forces will be taking on in Kandahar if they go in. And there will be somebody on every rooftop with an RPG or a rifle. There will be somebody around every corner. And there will be, IEDs and other kinds of bombs everywhere. And this will turn Kandahar into a killing ground. On top of this, I think it's quite possible that the Taliban have become very efficient at destroying U.S. vehicles, ground vehicles, faster than we can replace them, and this is causing problems with mobility. It doesn't do any good to field bigger vehicles because they just make bigger bombs, and that is the nature of asymmetrical warfare. At the same time, this war is being conducted by an American government that is living on borrowed money. So it seems to me that this is a situation that is ripe for real change, and not change that some people will be happy with. The first card tonight is the card for the star inverted. This was also the first card last week in the upright position, and I didn't have much to say about it. But now I take this as the symbol of the guiding star, and if the card comes up inverted, then it means that at this point in time, our leaders, so-called, have no idea what to do. They have no star to guide them. They have no principle. They're just opportunists and takers of orders from higher powers, and that's a stymied position. Now we have the Hermit in the inverted position. So I had previously commented that the Hermit had gone back into his cave, and at this point in time, the Hermit feels no reason to come out. This kind of links in with my own feelings that, the U.S. government is firmly in the grips of a small number of large corporations, and there's not a heck of a lot we can do about that except to continue to speak our truth as we see it. But everything that Obama does makes it very clear that somebody else is issuing the orders and he's just doing what he's told. Aha! Now we have the card of the Empress coming up in the upright position. So let's just take a wild flyer on this and suggest that the Empress is Michelle Obama, and that in the absence of anyone else, this is a very smart woman. We all know this. And we also know that, women in the White House are often the power behind the throne, and that could easily be the case with Obama. And so now he goes home at night and perhaps pours out his soul because he's, was he shocked when he came into office and found that he was just there to step and fetch? I don't know, and does he know that it's dangerous if he steps too far out of line? I'm sure he does. He has plenty of examples before him. And so here we have the feminine power, a very smart woman associated with him who perhaps will come up with some ideas for him to assert influence in a situation where there's basically a void, or where there is going to be a need for some wisdom. And then we have the card for judgment in the upright position. And this also links back to the situation in Afghanistan, because the commitment that Obama made, for all that many of us disapproved of it, was not an unlimited commitment. The general over there and his people were given time, a certain amount of time in 2010 to prove that they could get some results. And I think right now they're having a lot of trouble making the case that they are getting results. And there is judgment. We see the Goldman Sachs thing. We're coming up on the election, which is going to be a huge judgment. The Democrats are talking about coming out on the immigration bill, which I have called Nancy Pelosi and told her that that would be a bad idea, that this is going to initiate a firestorm of very unanticipated proportions. Harry Reid is going around saying that the American people want them to do something. I would say the American people do want them to do something, and what we want them to do is to enforce the existing immigration laws, because the lack of enforcement is hurting every American. And the final card we have today is the card for strength in the upright position. And so, we have a case where influence and a certain amount of force is applied, but it's a very controlled and thoughtful application of power, so that the woman in the card subdues the lion in a non-violent way, really by persuasion and seduction and tenderness and so on. And so that is the model that I think we have to look at here too, is that gentle persuasion perhaps, or perhaps raucous persuasion, is the way that we're going to move this situation forward.